grain corn, your dry corn. It's a little different than your sweet corn. You know, your sweet corn, you want to time it. You want to try to catch it when it's just, you know, it's just right at that peak of sweetness, but it's not too young, or it's not good and sweet yet, or it's not too old, or it's starting to get starchy. In this case, you want it to be fully mature and starting to dry. So you want to wait and not harvest it until after the plant's starting to look like it's dying. It's starting to dry out, brown out, die out. So it's fully mature, starting to dry. Now in some places you can just leave that and let it dry in the field. Now I don't necessarily recommend that you do that around here because of two reasons: critters and weather. A lot of times we have real steamy, you know, summers and falls, and you know, if you get a lot of rain, you could have some mold and mildew problems just trying to let the corn stand there in the field and dry. So if you get real high humidity like that, it's best not to have it just hanging out there in the field. And the other thing is critters. You're going to have squirrels and raccoons and all that stuff find your corn. And obviously the longer it's out there in the field, the longer they got to get it, and they get it instead of you getting it. So it's better, in my opinion, once the plant's starting to dry and looking like it's died out, just go ahead and harvest it, get it inside and let it finish drying somewhere inside, somewhere sheltered. I mean, it could be a garage or what have you. Now when you bring it into dry, it's still going to have some moisture in it. It may kind of appear dry to you, but it'll still have enough moisture in it to mold if you don't keep it spread out. I'll usually just bring mine in and spread it out on the table somewhere. I'll come in every other day or so and just kind of roll it over. I made the mistake first time I did it. I thought, gosh, that stuff's pretty dry. And I just threw it all in a cardboard box. And I came back, you know, a few days later, and it was starting to mold. There's enough moisture still left in it, but you got to keep it out where there's good air in it and let it finish drying so it won't mold out like that. Now, once it's dry, again, I think I already mentioned this, you can store it just like that. If you think that's pretty, you want to keep it like that. But obviously, that takes up space if you've got, 32 years of that or whatever around. So at any point, you can go in and shell it. Market gardeners, and you can find, I've seen them on eBay, they've got the old-timey corn shellers that you can bolt to a table and run the corn ear through it and shell it for you. For something like this, for just a family, I just sit around watching TV at night and, shell it out into a bowl an ear at a time. It's easy enough to do. So, if you're just talking a small quantity, you don't need anything mechanized like that. There are little handheld shellers that you can order that you just kind of twist over the corn to shell it out. I've seen guys take a board and put nails in it, put a hole in it, put nails sticking through the hole, and they run the corn. They set a bucket under it and run the corn. So there's different things you can do if you don't want to sit around doing it with your thumbs. But like I say, on just a small batch, it's easy to sit around at night watching the news or whatever and do it by hand. So remove that husk when you bring it in to dry. Do it like that. You peel all that husk back so the air can get to it and dry it out. Again, you want to keep it in an area that's got good ventilation and is dry. Now, somebody asked me last year, and I didn't know the answer because I've never paid that much attention to it. I said, well, how many years of corn does it take to make a batch of cornmeal? And I'd always just shelled it out in advance, so I didn't know. Well, so this year I tried to figure it out. So I took just a standard size Inflorion. He's roughly about an 8-inch ear of corn, and I shelled all that off the cob there, and I found out that gave me about a cup of corn kernels there. Now it takes about a little less than a cup and a half, usually about a cup and a third or so, is how many kernels you need to make this cornbread recipe, because this cornbread recipe calls for 2 cups. I found out that when I had, this was a little bit over 1.5, and when I ground that up, it made about, I don't know, 2 1/4 cups of cornmeal. Your volume expands when you grind it. I always thought, most people think that, you get less cornmeal than you would kernels, but it actually, as you grind it up, you put more airspace in there, so you actually end up with more volume. So it only takes, like I say, it takes less than 1.5 cups to get the 2 cups of cornmeal that you need for the recipe.
So that's 2 years before?
That's 1.5 years, like I say,